Hi YouTube, my name is Jehovah. I'm a former Jehovah's Witness. I disassociated myself on July 6, 2020. I was so excited. Um, I'm, I'm a South African, but I live in Canada. So I'm sure based on the title of my video, many of you wonder, circuit overseers are very busy men. How did he essentially get to how did she essentially study with the circuit overseer or elder, and how did this circuit overseer harass her sexually or sexually violate her? Those are really valid questions. So if you let me unpack my story, those questions will be answered. And I am also going to be explaining how I disassociated from the organization. So for those who might be unfamiliar with who circuit overseers are, basically these are men of the organization. They are trained and qualified by Jehovah's Witness organization. They travel from congregation to congregation, encouraging, upbuilding their brothers and sisters through talks or gatherings or through their door-to-door ministry. So they are super busy, and most interestingly is that they don't stay in one congregation. They are moving around from congregation to congregation. And I must say, I had a privilege of working with so many circuit overseers behind the scenes of conventions and assemblies. So those are meant to impress because they are organizations men who are checking to make sure like all the points that you're gonna say on the podium are on point. They are in alignment with the organization. So I had quite a big experience with circuit overseers. They are truly busy. So as I unpack my story, you'll get to see how I was violated by one of these circuit overseers. So I was raised by a single spiritual mom. My father was never one of Jehovah's Witnesses. My household was what Jehovah's Witnesses call spiritually divided household. I wish it could be called spiritually mixed household. But anyways, because my father was not a witness and my mom was one of Jehovah's Witnesses, we grew up in that household that was spiritually divided. And that basically made me it made me to be spiritually fatherless. So this is how my mom essentially became a witness. My aunt actually brought the religion in the family. She introduced the Jehovah's Witnesses teaching to my mom and my grandmother, and apparently they were impressed, especially my mom. She loved the fact that the witnesses were teaching in 1914. She was just blown away. She was like, all her entire life, she has never heard any religion that taught that Jesus was enthroned in 1914. And for that reason and many others, she decided to become one of Jehovah's Witnesses. Interestingly, my mom and my grandmother got baptized in 1995 on the same day in the same pool. So they were very devout after their baptism. And my mom obviously raised us, me and my two little brothers. We just grew up like any other Jehovah's Witness kid. And it just shows you the power of the Jehovah's Witness ideology, because it dominated the household. My father was sort of silenced or made powerless. All decisions that were made in the household were surrounded by what Jehovah's Witnesses religion taught. So it made us to be more Jehovah's Witnesses more than anything else. Even when we were at school, we were Jehovah's Witnesses children, not anything else. So we had a typical Jehovah's Witness upbringing where we did not celebrate any birthdays, no holidays. We did not participate in any sports at school or any activities beyond academics. So we just grew up like that. And it was becoming weird to our teachers, because they had never experienced kids who were acting that way, especially because, like I said, I'm from Africa. So teachings like this were not known in the part of Africa where I lived. So it got worse and worse and worse at school. I remember there was a time where I got expelled out of school because my teachers could not take it anymore. They thought we were super weird kids who never participated in regular activities that other kids were participating in. So being expelled from school was very devastating to me as a kid. We cried a lot. My brother and I, it was really, really sad. We were not participating in sport and other things, but it got worse because we were not singing religious songs or engaging in prayer. So that was actually the main reason why the school kicked us out. So it made me move around so much. My parents actually kept changing us from school to school. It was very devastating and very it sort of ruined my stability as a child, because I remember by the time I was 12 years old, I had been to 4 different elementary schools. So you can just imagine how much I was moving around. So my mom eventually moved my brother and I to a totally different town, new congregation, in the search of a better school, so that we could at least have freedom of worship or be able to go to school without much persecution. And that's when I met Brother Caleb. So I will call him Brother Caleb for the purpose of this video. And Brother Caleb eventually became my Bible conductor. So when we were in this new town, we lived with our aunts who were also Jehovah's Witnesses. So we obviously moved to a new congregation, and in this congregation there were just a lot of kids. There was so much spiritual activities going on there. We felt it was fun. However, it was sad on the other hand, because our parents only came to visit us on weekends. So that wasn't a good thing. The fact that because of being Jehovah's Witness children, we were separated from our parents, that did not really sit well with us as kids. But then it was adventurous. We were exploring, I would say. And like I said, in this congregation, it's when I met Brother Caleb. I'll call him Brother Caleb. Brother Caleb had so much interest in me. As soon as he saw me and my brother, he was so excited to see us, and he just said, welcome to the congregation. And me having no father in the truth in the organization, he played a role of being my father. He was my spiritual father, and I felt like he really took care of me socially, spiritually, and he was always there for me. Honestly, I feel like he was just a father away from father. So in 2001, Brother Caleb had been studying with me for almost a year, and I had progressed so much spiritually. Since I was 10 years old when we essentially met, I was already giving talks in the school. I was doing the door-to-door ministry with my aunts. So when he became my spiritual father, I was already a very engaged kid in the congregation. So around 2001, when I was about 11 years old, something was happening in my congregation. So much vibes happening, kids getting baptized, and I got really inspired. Because the atmosphere, the environment was just so spiritual. And then some of my friends were getting baptized, and they were getting a lot of praise from brothers and sisters. That attention and praise just got me fueled, and I think as a kid I wanted the same praise as well, and I decided that I was going to get baptized. When I was planning my baptism and everything, my parents knew nothing. More especially even my father, who is worldly, non-Jehovah's Witness, knew nothing that his 11-year-old daughter was making a lifetime commitment, becoming one of Jehovah's Witnesses. So they didn't know until it was like a few weeks before the convention, when my aunts gave my mom a call that I was getting baptized, so she needed to get me ready. And unfortunately, my mom could not even come to the convention. None of my family members were at my baptism because they knew very last minute, and my mom had not really prepared for that. And like I said earlier, it was in a different town, so that needed lots of arrangements. So my baptism was kind of sad. I wish my family was around, but at my baptism, I was supported by the sister who actually studied the Bible with my mom. So Brother Caleb, though, was very proud of me, super proud that I got baptized as one of his Bible students. And then 2002, post my baptism, I went back to be with my family. My mom actually told us there was a really great school where a lot of Jehovah's Witness kids were going, and they could attend school freely without any religious boundary or being persecuted. So my brother and I were very excited to go and be with our parents to go to this new school. And then during this time, Brother Caleb had served as a congregation elder for so many years. Around 2003, 2005, he began to pursue spiritual goals, meaning doing more in the organization. I heard he went to different schools, but because we had been separated, I was just like hearing things from brothers and sisters, but I wasn't really so much in contact with him. And I heard that he went to theocratic schools where the organization basically trained him to eventually become a circuit overseer. So he was doing so much in the organization. And during that time, I heard that he had been to a couple of countries like Botswana and Namibia. So in 2009, it became official, like something that I've never experienced as one of Jehovah's Witnesses, where a brother becomes a CO in his hometown where he grew up. It was a very exciting experience for me. So I remember when he first visited, my family and I were so excited, and the congregation was really proud of him because it was his hometown. So everybody was really happy, and me especially, knowing that he studied the Bible with me, he helped me to progress till baptism, was even more exciting. So that was like between 2008 basically and 2009. And I remember he came for his first of all, to kind of like highlight those who might not be aware of what really happens when circuit overseers visit the congregations. I can say it's what the witnesses call spiritual special week. It gets super busy. People literally ask for a time off from work so that they can get busy throughout the whole week. I remember, like I would normally do, I went to his place to help him do a lot of things like packing. He was a single brother and he was almost like my family. So my parents dropped me off to go assist him. So on that day, there was his mom, the other young sister from the congregation, and myself. And we helped. We arranged everything that we possibly could arrange. And then the young sister who was helping said she was going. So she thought we had done everything that we needed to do, and it was time for her to go. And then his mom walked out for whatever reason, probably doing gardening or something, but I wouldn't know. And now in the house was me and Brother Caleb, my circuit overseer. This is the end of the special week because he was packing to move on to the next congregation. And me realizing that, yeah, it was just us and the packing was done. We had done everything. I was also like, I'm about to go. I'm gonna go. And then he was like, fine, I can walk you out. And that was the time when he actually he showed me very unusual behavior, something that I did not expect at all. So he hugged me, and I hugged him back, and I'm thinking that this is a goodbye hug because he's leaving. So I hugged him back, and he never let go. He just continued to. He held on to me for minutes and minutes, making it super uncomfortable, tighter and tighter. And at this point, I am becoming confused. I want to yell, I want to scream. I don't know what to do. And at this point, the door is still open. And I'm just praying in my heart, Jehovah, please help me understand what is going on here, because everything happened so fast, super quickly, that I wasn't prepared for any occurrence like this. So I was just hoping that at that moment his mom or somebody would just walk in, but unfortunately nobody walked in. And his behavior at this point is escalating, and I am doing everything that I can to back up, but he's holding me like very, very tightly. And the next thing that he does is to forces himself over me and starts kissing me. And that was just devastating. I was shaking. I felt like somebody has just poured iced water over me. I didn't know what to do, or I was just really in a great shock, especially because it had been an awesome day, uplifting spiritual conversations. Everything was super duper nice. So when this happens, all of a sudden, I was not ready. I had not expected this to happen. So I was doing my best to detangle myself, but then he was pursuing whatever intentions he wanted to pursue. But I was praying so hard in my heart. I was praying, and all of a sudden I had the courage and the strength to detangle myself. And as soon as I detangled myself, I looked at him with shock, with anger, with pain, and I told him how wrong he was, and I was disgusted by what he was doing. So I took off after this incident. I went home, and on my way home, I was in great disbelief. Not only that I didn't expect he could do it to me, but I wasn't expecting him to do it to anyone. Nobody deserved that. He was somebody that I trusted so much. My Bible conductor, my family member, my parents trusted him to the core. They knew him as a family. So when he suddenly just violated me like this sexually, we were in great disbelief. All of us were disappointed. And on my way home, I was just wondering how many people, how many brothers and sisters he's gonna go around congregations counseling about avoiding immorality and everything. Because circuit overseers basically go to a point where they counsel elders. Their work is to help brothers and sisters to stay spiritually healthy and to maintain their faith. So I was just disgusted by the hypocrisy that I was realizing at that point. And my other concern was, would anybody believe me? Because he had a fine reputation in the organization. Many congregations knew him as a very decent, fine brother, super spiritual brother who had been to so many theocratic schools and everything. So it was just so many overwhelming feelings that I was experiencing, and I could not even express this or tell my mom on that day, because I really didn't know how she would react and whether she would believe me or not. So I just slept through it, and I was able to have the strength to eventually tell my aunt. She did tell my mom as soon as I told her the story, everything that happened. And my mom was also in a great disbelief, and she also felt that she didn't do anything to protect me, and she felt like she was betrayed by the trust and the comfort that she had on this brother. And it's just a lot of people felt that way. I felt the same betrayal as well. So the brother, on the other hand, while we were this frustrated and devastated, he continued to enjoy his spiritual privileges as much as possible. He continued to go to many congregations that he was assigned to. So we had a little bit of an issue between with my father. like I said earlier, my father not being one of Jehovah's Witnesses, he would have loved to take the matter to the authorities. But because of how we are mentally groomed as Jehovah's Witnesses, we know that we cannot take our brother to court or to the police. So we told my father that if we took our brother to court, we would not have a good standing with the congregation, because all matters or all allegations among brothers and sisters have to be settled by the elders. So therefore, we were able to win over my father. We convinced him that the elders would take care of this case very properly using the scriptures. So my mom called the elders. She informed them about this incident, and the elders told us that since he had left, we would have to wait for him to take a break from the circuit. In my understanding, circuit overseers go around their assigned congregations, and somehow they take a break or a holiday, something like that. So we were told that when he went on leave, then we would have a meeting. The day of the meeting finally arrived a couple of months later, and it was a very awkward position that I was in, because of the questions that were asked there. Obviously, in the meeting were elders, my mom, and brother Caleb. So I remember feeling so embarrassed giving all the details, and some of the questions were kind of awkward and hard. They made it harder for me to be very expressive, because I remember questions like how did he touch you, and how long did he touch you for, did he touch your breast or other parts. So I had to explain all of those details. So he did not refuse anything. Basically, he admitted everything that he did. And I remember the elders read a scripture about avoiding bad conduct or unclean conduct or immoralities, and that was it. And now looking back to that case, if he denied everything, that would have meant that the case would be closed, because the Jehovah's Witnesses they believe in a two witness rule, where when there's an allegation against a brother or sister, there has to be two witnesses. And a lot of people around the world have suffered due to that policy of having to have two witnesses, because in cases like this, there are no witnesses. Just for example, in my case, Brother Caleb looked for the opportunity where it was just the two of us when his mom was out and the other young sister had left. So it's a policy that has broken up many families and has torn a lot of people emotionally, to a point where some have even taken their lives, because nobody believed them when they expressed that they had been sexually abused by the spiritual brothers, the trusted people in the congregations. And we were warned by the elders that this was supposed to be kept confidential. We were not supposed to discuss this with anybody, whether in the family or in the congregation. So this is what really happens, of course, within the congregations, where people get harassed, like the way I was, And the other congregation members end up not knowing about these perpetrators. And as a circuit overseer, he keeps going around and around. You may never know how many sisters he had actually harassed, because he was able to get away with what he did. But even though we were told to keep it to ourselves, it kept bothering my mom, and it was bothering me as well. And I remember I was expressing concern that nothing happened to him, even though he did that to me. And my mom was like, he admitted, so at least you did not turn out to be a liar. And she encouraged me to remember that these are just brothers, not perfect. This is Jehovah's perfect organization, but the people running it may not be perfect. Therefore, I should not be stumbled by the mistakes of my brothers. I should focus on beautiful things, the blessings that are, and the privileges that we are enjoying in Jehovah's organization. I remember she was like reminding me of how beautiful the brotherhood is, telling me that we are so, it's, in fact, he was telling me it's a privilege. It's a privilege to be a Jehovah's Witness, because there is no organization like this one, the entire earth. So we should just forget about the mistakes of our brothers and look ahead to the new system where everybody around us would be perfect. So I took my mom's words and I carried on as a faithful Christian in the congregation. And he was also serving in the congregation without serving as a circuit overseer without any problems. He continued his normal circuit work. So my mom she was bothered, even though she was trying to keep this confidential. And she discussed this with the sister who actually studied the Bible with her, because she felt like her chest was burning. She couldn't keep it anymore. She just wanted clarity or perspectives, because she really wanted to move on. And very sadly, the sister told my mom that the same brother had done the same thing to her daughter. So what happened is, after the daughter reported that he had done that, the family wanted him to pay some money to sort of like cover the damages, even the emotional trauma and pain that their daughter went through. And the brother paid. And he was able to get away with it after paying. So even though I had moved on and forgave him, after finding out that this was his pattern of behavior, I realized that something is really happening. And I was really disappointed to see that I wasn't just the only victim. He had done that not only to me, but to the other sister too. My mom was also very disappointed, but also, being Jehovah's Witnesses, we had to leave everything in Jehovah's hands. And we knew when Jehovah's appointed time arrived, he would be dealt with accordingly. And that's the attitude that all Jehovah's Witnesses we have. No matter how tough things may be, we leave things in Jehovah's hands. Anyways, 2019, 2019, I had was my final year of high school, and I was ready to go to university. Even though university is highly discouraged by the organization, I went anyways because I couldn't reconcile the fact that Jehovah would not want people to be educated. And also, I I remembered how much the society cites these worldly scholars in their articles. So I got to realize that the education was very valuable. I decided to go to university, and that was when I actually had the opportunity to travel to Canada, and I was in Ottawa downtown. That's where I met my husband. We were, like I said, we were in the same congregation, and as Jehovah's Witnesses were encouraged to have a relationship or date with the purpose of getting married. And we fell in love with my husband in this congregation, and we eventually got married. Our wedding had took place in South Africa, but I eventually joined him in Canada a year and a half later. So as a couple, we were very spiritually strong. We had a very fine reputation. We were so busy in the work of the Lord. The brothers were still using us for parts in the assemblies, and yeah, we were super busy and highly devout. You know, like how tight the Jehovah's Witnesses routine can get, where you have the meetings that you have to prepare for in advance, convention preparations, and at this time we had a daughter whom we were indoctrinating so much, so she had started to make the truth her own, becoming like really active in the congregation, giving talks and comments and all of that. We had a service group coming to our house every Saturday morning, where we got prepared, of course, before we go and knock on people's doors. So we had really tight spiritual routine, but I normally call it theocratic routine, because there's a huge difference between spirituality and theocracy. So we were pretty tight in the activities of Jehovah's Witnesses. So how did I wake up? As one of Jehovah's Witnesses, I had so many doubts. I remember being at one of the conventions of Jehovah's Witnesses, and the speaker on the podium said, "Feed your faith and your doubts will starve." And I was at this convention looking forward to hearing what the brother would say. How do I feed my faith so that I can starve my doubts? Because I had so many constant doubts. And the brother mentioned that we have to have our regular meeting attendance, be there at assemblies and conventions, study the Bible using the study aids, publications that the organization publish, and be out in the ministry regularly. And I was thinking to myself, I'm doing all of that. I'm not missing any meetings. I'm doing my best, and I am giving my energy in converting other people to become Jehovah's Witnesses. I've always felt, though, something was missing. And to be honest, we had family worship where we dedicated the night just to strengthen our faith, to the organization, to expand our brotherly love and stuff like that. But it always felt something was missing. In all honesty, as one of Jehovah's Witnesses, I've always felt I was super busy theocratically. I was super engaged, but I was spiritually starving. And the more I was so engaged with all these theocratic activities that are supposedly have to make your faith stronger, I felt I was drifting away from God gradually. I've always felt starving, and I knew I was dedicated, doing everything that I needed to do as one of Jehovah's Witnesses. But all those things, all those activities that I was doing were not reaching my heart. They were not bringing any closer to God. And I just knew that something huge, something big was really missing in my life. So my biggest item that I couldn't shelve anymore, as much as I tried to shelve as many items as possible, was the concept of the governing body. It was always hard for me to grasp the concept. Like, it was so hard for me to understand how in the heavens and on earth God chose only a small group of people in America, the governing body, to lead God's people. I came across the documentary entitled The Witnesses, Oxygen. That documentary changed my life forever. And it came right at the time when I really knew something was missing, and I wanted to do something to draw closer to God, and it just arrived. It was really painful watching what people had been through and what people are still going through. Basically, the documentary exposes the cover-up of child sex abuse within the congregations of Jehovah's Witnesses. I highly recommend that anybody listening to this, watching this video, really takes time off and watch that documentary. It's so eye-opening, whether you are a Jehovah's Witness or not. It's so heartbreaking. It was really heartbreaking for me watching those people who had been taken advantage of within the congregations. People who are now shunned by the congregation of Jehovah's Witnesses because they did not have witnesses when they were being molested as children. Like I said a little bit earlier, touching on my story about the incidents with the circuit overseer, I would say lucky, because he admitted everything. So these people were not believed when they told their stories about being abused by some congregation elders within Jehovah's Witness organization. And it was so hard watching it. It was really heartbreaking. And I just really couldn't help think about the circuit overseer, who sort of got away with everything because of understanding the policies and the procedure, the judicial systems within Jehovah's Witness congregations. They understand policies like the two-witness rule. So these people who take advantage of people within the congregations understand how much the organization is covering them up instead of supporting the victims. So watching this documentary, it was really heartbreaking to see what people go through. And some of the people shown in this documentary decided that they wouldn't continue to be Jehovah's Witnesses anymore. And for that, they are being shunned by their family members, by friends, by every single Jehovah's Witness they've ever known in their lives, simply because they're saying, nobody listens to us, we are not heard, and we don't have witnesses to our cases, and we do not believe that this is God's organization anymore. And just for saying that, for leaving and not believing the organization, they have to be shunned. They lose everything. And it's so sad that some of the people, not shown in the documentary though, but generally some of the people who have experienced the same thing that was exposed in the documentary have lost their lives. And then I decided to do external research. I had to look for external sources to get more perspectives, basically on everything, on religion, or anything that had to talk about Jehovah's Witnesses and stuff like that. And I was more careful and super skeptical, because as Jehovah's Witnesses, we are always warned to avoid apostates material. So at this point, I did not go to any apostate website, or I just focused on academic or scholarly books, articles to read up about the history of religion, and to see if there was anything about Jehovah's Witnesses. I was reading, and those perspectives were mind-blowing, to be honest. And it got my curiosity going higher and higher. I just needed more, because I thought there's so many great perspectives out there. Worldly wisdom is very interesting and valuable. I went on YouTube to see if there were any videos about Jehovah's Witnesses or anybody. I was particularly focusing on maybe scholars or just any reasonable video on Jehovah's Witnesses. And I stumbled on the first video that I stumbled on was by True Faced. The title of the video, so I will just look at it from my notes here to get it right. It was Jehovah's Witnesses Foundation and Beliefs Challenged. That video was super great and well documented and well researched, and I felt comfortable to watch it from the beginning to the end. And the information was super informative, and I liked it because I could actually verify the information and the sources and resources. I found JW Facts, very great website. I highly recommend for those who might be unaware of it. ExJw Fifth, that was a really great channel that really helped me during the early stages of my awakening. ExJw Critical Thinker, very great couple. They have awesome and amazing videos. I could, because of their experience in the organization, I could really relate to some of the things that they were saying, especially like the behind the scenes of conventions and stuff like that. They were saying things that I've experienced as one of Jehovah's Witnesses. So overall, that channel was really great for me. John Cedars, really great channel as well. I highly recommend if you are unaware of it. And Living the Second Chance. And then I came across the teaching of the overlapping generation teaching. It's a doctrine that, as one of Jehovah's Witnesses, I never really paid attention to. It's one of those things I heard about it, I knew it, but I just ignored it. I just thought, Jehovah will clear it in his due time. I didn't really bother about it. And I was watching one of my favorite channels by brother Eric Wilson, It's called Berean Pickets. And he kept on explaining this doctrine. And as I'm watching the video, I'm realizing how stupid I have been to have believed this teaching or to even ignore it, because it's a very important teaching in the organization, but I never really paid attention to it. And he was explaining it. And in the middle of the video, I decided to pause for a little bit to read Matthew chapter 24. So if you read from verse 1 all the way to 34 and you read it in context, it's just gonna, it broke my heart. It really broke my heart to see how much the organization had over the years misinterpreted the scripture. And this organization has presented itself as an organization that holds the Bible in very high regard. So I felt very disappointed that the scripture could be misapplied that way. And it was really obvious because I started for the first time reading this verse in context. And I just finished off the rest of the video, and after that I knew it. That doctrine was the last straw for me. I knew I wasn't going to continue to be one of Jehovah's Witnesses anymore. I knew what it meant. I knew that everybody that I have ever known all my entire life was gone from that moment. I knew I was going to be shunned by all the witnesses that I have known. And mind you, that as Jehovah's Witnesses, the only people that we could associate with, it's Jehovah's Witnesses. So when you don't believe anymore, everybody then that you have known has to go. As hard as it is, I knew what I wanted. I just could not stand the organization anymore. It's a whole lot of things happening, covering up of child sex abuse cases in the congregations. And this organization, it looks like it cares more about its image more than protecting the victims, people who are going through so much emotionally. And then now I'm realizing how unscriptural this teaching is. My whole world collapsed. I've based all my decisions on what the society has taught. All my life had been a life of a Jehovah's Witness. I knew nothing outside of Jehovah's Witness. So it felt really devastating. It was a very devastating moment for me, knowing that the foundation of my entire belief system is false. It was a reality that I had to accept. I knew I wouldn't continue anymore. So I remember I was awake till like 4 a.m. because I couldn't sleep all night, just reading. And I remember praying to Jehovah. I prayed and I said, Jehovah, when I got baptized as one of Jehovah's Witnesses in 2001, when I was 11 years old, I did not know that I was dedicating my life to the organization that can do this, and the organization that can misinterpret and misuse the Bible. And I remember saying, I am sorry. I cannot continue to be one of Jehovah's Witnesses anymore. And I said to Jehovah, I know I dedicated my life to you, and I will not renounce my dedication to you, Father, but I am leaving the organization. And after that prayer, that was it. The physical and emotional fatigue that I was experiencing, I felt like it was gone because my mind was made up. And then I woke up on July 6th, 2020, happy. I sent a text message to the coordinator of the body of elders, letting him know that I didn't want to be recognized as one of Jehovah's Witnesses anymore. And it was an easy text message to send. Like, I was really happy and relieved. And even though I knew I was going to be shunned, and I knew I'm in a country where I'm an immigrant, and everybody that I knew was Jehovah's Witness. And now that all my friends in this country are going to go, even when I go back home in Africa, I have got no, the Jehovah's Witness people that I've known are going. That was really sad, but still, my decision was still worth it. It was still making me happy. So this is my story, and this is Jehovah and ExJw. I hope my story has been able to answer any questions that you probably had or might have had when you saw the title of my video. Before I close my story, I would like to thank the ExJw community. Thank you so much from the bottom of my heart, all of you in the community, because you've put up the videos out there. Those videos are very educating, informative. And to my brothers and sisters back in Africa, I just want to say to you, ngicela ningasabi, ningaze nisabe bafethu, because umuntu ufanele azibuze ukuthi ujabulile yini ngempela. Ufanele uzibuze ngempela ukuthi ujabulile yini. And khumbula ukuthi uNkulunkulu ufuna ukuthi sijabule. So uzibuze ngokungasabi ukuthi ujabulile yini. And xa ngabe nje unemibuzo enhlizweni yakho and awuqinisekanga, mina ngithi nje phenya, research, ngoba uzolifumana iqiniso. Iqiniso alifihlekile. Ungasoze nje uvumele nje labazalwane laba base phesheya, ungalingi nje ubavumela ukuthi nje bakudide. Bafethu, ngicela ukuthi nje ni research. You will know the truth, and the truth will set you free. Having said that, I just want to close my story to say thank you so much for your attention, and I will be making more videos in the future. Thank you for watching.